Welcome back into Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, asking you to head over to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. Find us, subscribe, leave us a comment, tell us what you think about the show, and of course, follow me on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. And of course, you can download for free on all of your favorite podcast platforms anytime. Spotify, Odyssey, any of your favorite platforms, you can find us there. Free and easy to download and listen to us wherever, whenever you would like. I love rumor and innuendo, and we're getting closer and closer, right? We keep inching our way. Finals are going to start in the NBA on Thursday. More trade rumors and innuendo. Seems like every potential guy in the league is rumored to head to the Atlanta Hawks. The latest name that is out there is Detroit Pistons swing forward Jerami Grant. Now, last year with the Pistons, he's played 2 seasons with the Pistons after coming over from the from the Denver Nuggets. He's played with the Pistons the last couple of seasons. This past year, 19.2 points per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, 2.4 assists per game. The year before, with the Pistons in his first year, 22 points per game with 4 rebounds and almost 5 assists. But last year, hampered by injury, only played in 47 games. Okay, that raises a little bit of red flag. So if you don't know about Jerami Grant, he is a guy that was a bench player for the Denver Nuggets in their run from a couple of years ago. His calling card at that time was not just his offense, but really his defense. He was a very defensive-minded player. In fact, he was the guy that they would line up on LeBron or Anthony Davis. He 6'8" forward. He's considered to be a really good defensive forward, and he's a guy now that getting a chance to be the guy in Detroit is starting to hone his offensive game. Now, the injuries over the last couple of years scare me because even a couple of years ago, and I know, we had COVID and all this, that, and the other, but even in the shortened season of 72 games, that he was only 47 games last year, and then he was 54 in the COVID year. So, okay, the injury part concerns me a little bit. But Chris Kirschner, among some others, have been talking about the team that sort of is in the lead for Jerami Grant if the Pistons are going to move on from him, because he is in the last year of a 3 for $60 deal. So he signed 3 for $60. The reports and the rumor and innuendo is that he would get somewhere 4 years and $112 million. Okay, what was John? John was 5 for 125 or something like that, or somewhere around in that range. But okay, 4 for 112, that's a pretty good price tag on a guy. Do the Pistons want to pay that, or would they rather try to get something back? Now, the rumored and believed leader in the clubhouse for Grant services are the Portland Trailblazers. And that's because a couple of years ago in the Olympic trials and all that kind of stuff, developed a good relationship with Dame Lillard. And trading CJ McCollum, they're trying to, rebuild this roster. And the rumor and innuendo there is they still want to build around Lillard. All right. They still want to build around Damian Lillard, and he's still their superstar. They want to start to put some good pieces around him. And Grant does have a relationship with him, and they did become close a couple of years in the Olympic trials and all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's fine. Now, the other rumor, though, coming out is the Atlanta Hawks, that the Hawks supposedly, if you believe what Chris Kirschner and some others have said, that they did try to acquire him a couple of years ago before he did come to the Pistons, that they were very high on Grant and thought he would be that good two-way swing player, that offensive-minded, defensive presence, forward that could play small forward and play guys on the perimeter, but also get down low with some guys because of some of his size and strength. So the rumor in innuendo for a trade is using either Bogdan Bogdanovic or Danilo Gallinari, and especially potentially Gallinari because of his expiring contract and freeing up the money. But they also talk about the idea that Bogdanovic in the 16th pick might be a better scenario for the Pistons. Now, when I hear that, that doesn't sound like very good compensation to get back for Jerami Grant. For if I'm the Pistons and this is my best player and he's a valuable commodity and he's in the final year of a contract that doesn't pay him a whole lot, even knowing that a team is going to have to extend him, and obviously you want to feel like if you're a team that you're going to be able to extend him right away, you're not going to be able to just let him go to free agency or anything like that. You're going to feel like you can extend him out there. That doesn't seem like enough. And I wonder, and look, from a money standpoint, yes, it fits in. Bogdanovic or Gallinari with the 16th pick of the draft. Okay. Now, we talked yesterday about the fact of making and taking advantage of your mid-lower tier first-round picks and finding yourself good pieces. So 16th might not be a bad pick to give up in this year's draft because it could have some value and some things like that to it. I don't know if that's enough to get him, but if you told me I could have Bogdanovich in the 16th pick or Gallinari in the 16th pick for Jerami Grant, I'd do that in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. So then the question becomes, where do you play him? What do you do with him? Because he is a swing forward. Well, last I looked, I do have John Collins. That's, my quote unquote power forward to play with Clint Capella. I do have DeAndre Hunter, who is supposed to be my small forward wing player. Does that mean DeAndre Hunter becomes more of sort of a two guard? I don't know if his offense is good enough to be something like that. Something tells me that you would have to maybe look at moving on from one of those guys, Collins or DeAndre Hunter, if you decide to go this route. I don't know that he fits along with what they want to do, because I still think that, let's say if it's Gallinari, okay, that still gives me Bogey and Herter to play in the backcourt. And those guys are shooting guys. Those are not your replacements for Trae Young when he's, off the court or what have you. You got to find, whether it's DeLon Wright or something like that, find a legitimate, backup point guard to back up Trae. But he is an intriguing prospect. And again, the injuries do give me some pause and concern. When a guy has only played, what's he played? 110 or 111 games. 101 games in a 2-year stretch, 54 and 47. When a guy's only played 101 games in 2 years, even with COVID and shortened seasons and all that kind of stuff, that's a little bit concerning. But he is a guy that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. Right now, he's only 28 years old. He just turned 28 back in March. So he's still a guy that you think of as in the prime of his career. But if you're talking about a guy who could probably get you 20 a night, and he's a stopper defensively, and that's where he made his bones with the Denver Nuggets, is being a defensive stopper. That's where he made his name, was especially going up against LeBron when they played the Nuggets and Lakers a few years ago in the playoffs. That's where he's really made his bones. I'd be all in favor of this. My question would be, one is the compensation enough? Now, if you told me I have to give up DeAndre Hunter and the 16th pick, would I do that for Jerami Grant? Remember, I said, can I upgrade that specific position before, when we talked about I might be hesitant to move on from Hunter unless I get enough star? Is Grant a big enough star to do that? Maybe. I'd have to. I wouldn't be as quick to say yes to that deal as I would say Bogdanovich or Gallinari plus the 16th pick. I mean, that would be a no-brainer for it, and I'll figure out what I got to do with my roster from there. Don't know if I'd be willing to just give up DeAndre Hunter in the 16th pick, because I still want to see if DeAndre Hunter can grow and he can find a role, and can he be a real key cog in what I'm doing. And Hunter's frankly going to cost you less money in the long term than what Grant is. I mean, if we're talking about 4 for 112, that's a pretty big chunk of money for the Hawks to throw into their payroll, right? I mean, you are definitely luxury tax bound at that point. You're already teetering on it, but you are definitely luxury tax bound at that point. So I like the idea of Grant. I like the fact that they had some interest in him. I like the proposed compensation packages. If it doesn't necessarily include Hunter, would I be willing to give up John Collins in the 16th pick? Maybe. You're going to trade out money, and Grant is probably a better version of that. So Collins, I could probably live with. Hunter, I'd have to think about. But if I bring him on, at least he's a guy who we look at and say is 20. He's a 20-5 player, but he is a defensive stopper. And certainly that's one of the things that the Hawks desperately need. All right, well, thank you so much for being a part of this show today. Thanks for making Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen. Asking you to make ATL Day 1s your second listen. My friends Jarvis Davis and Tanitra Batiste speak to all things in the heart of Atlanta, talking about Falcons, Hawks, Dogs, everything that you could want and more, local and beyond. Great conversation between those two, as always. Check them out. Free and available on YouTube. Go to Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube. Subscribe subscribe to our page there, leave us a comment. And of course, it's free and available, just like this show is, on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Download it today. And as always, we ask you to follow me on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. We thank you so much as we flip into June for being a part of Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery. This is Locked On Sports Atlanta.